Good afternoon, Mr. Crowell.
Hello, how are you?
Fine.
Great.
Joe will not be here this morning, at least for the first part, so I'll be filling in for him.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. And I know we're going to have two commissioners out today. We're going to be missing Ashley Sadowski and Kokithia.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Bruce. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
Oh, you can't get any better day in Kansas City. It's been a good time of year.
Yes.
Football,
Yes.
football, great football, festivals, it's all happening.
Yes. Okay, so we're still waiting on a few commissioners to sign up here. Okay, who are we missing? Good morning, Forstine.
Well, good morning on a fall chilly day.
Yeah, it's finally getting nice outside. Anna, we ready to go? I think we've got a quorum now, so we can go ahead and start the meeting.
Sounds good. Let me turn on the YouTube. Got an error message again. We'll just upload it later.
It's recording.
Okay, we can begin.
Okay. All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October 4th, 2021 City Planning Commission meeting. We appreciate everybody being here today as we hold our meeting virtually. We believe we have the technical pieces in place and anticipate our next meeting to be held at City Hall. But don't worry, even though the being in person is encouraged, we will still have a virtual component as part of our meetings, as we do see a lot of positives with that. So please, however, check the website as you download your City Planning Commission agenda and packet to confirm how the meeting will be held. But I'm 99% certain it will be held in City Hall. with the virtual component. So I'm looking forward to that. Just want to continue reminding everybody about the comprehensive plan titled KC Spirit Playbook. Check out the website playbook.kcmo.gov for more information on that. Next is, we understand that every project is important and unique. We also want to make sure that we address them all with the attention that they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. So the commissioners believe we can reach a consensus by being brief yet heard. Therefore, we have time limits in place for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations and 20 minutes for applicant presentations, plus questions by any of the commissioners. When we move to public comment, please limit comments to 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or a larger group. We believe these rules are necessary just to help keep the meeting moving along and to build the consensus that we want. So as we get started, I asked staff to briefly provide some ground rules and instructions for all of us to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. So Anna, do you mind reminding us of those ground rules, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you. So I think we are all pretty familiar with Zoom at this point, but for those of you on the call, which is your first time participating in a public hearing via Zoom, I just want you to know that there are generally 2 categories of people participating in the meeting right now. We have attendees and panelists. Panelists are commission members and city staff. If you are an applicant or a citizen who is interested in speaking on one of these cases, you're going to use the raise hand function in Zoom when the chair calls your case to let staff know that you need to be promoted as a panelist position. So when that promotion occurs, it will appear that you are temporarily disconnected from the call, but don't panic, don't freak out. You will be reconnected shortly. And then at that time, the chair would like you to turn on your camera and your microphone so that the commission can see and hear you when it is time to talk. First, staff will be giving their staff report, then the chair will turn it over to the applicant team associated with the case, and then it will be time for public testimony. So be sure to mute yourself when you are not speaking. This is just so we can limit background noise. And if you are joining via the app or a computer, we would like for you to change your screen name to reflect your legal name. This helps promote you, but we do understand that if you're calling via the phone, you cannot change your screen name. Also, a reminder that the chat box is used for questions about the agenda exclusively. Merits of the case should not be discussed in the chat box. And that is all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and get started with our consent agenda items. I understand that there's a few cases that need to be continued, so we'll start with those first, please.
And Joe is back. Joe, do you want to handle it or do you need to continue?
Anna, can you go ahead and read the consent
Yeah.
agenda?
So
Thank you.
the items that are going to be continued from the consent agenda are C1. This is case number CD CPC 2021-0050. We also are continuing C4, which is case number CLD Final Plat 2021-0031, as well as C6, case number CLD Final Plat 2021-0039, and C7, case number CLD Final Plat 2021-0040.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items C1, C4, C6, or C7? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. Is there anybody out there that would like to talk about the continuance of those docket items that have been read? Seeing none, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony on those, and I'll take a motion for continuance of those cases, please.
I move to continue docket item C1, C4, C6, and C7 to the dates as listed on the docket.
Okay,
Second.
so I've got a motion and a second to continue those docket items. Lisa, can you take roll call, please? And just note there's 5 of us.
Lisa, you there?
Anna, do you mind going ahead and taking
Okay,
roll call,
yeah.
please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we do it alphabetically? Sorry.
That's the way she usually does it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Allender,
Aye.
Baker.
Beasley,
Beasley, aye.
Clow,
aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Baker. Sorry, Baker.
Okay, so it looks like the motion passes to continue those cases to the date stated on the agenda. So let's go ahead and open up the remaining consent agenda items.
Okay. So we have consent docket C2. This is case number CD CPC 2021-00154. A request to approve a project plan consisting of trail improvements and landscape buffer planting on about 21 acres generally located on the west side of North Shark Avenue and approximately 120 feet north of Northeast 116th Street. There's also C3, case number CLD final plat 2018-01196. This is the final plat for Pembroke's Estates, 7th plat, previously advertised as case number CSD 07631 on about 22 acres generally located at south of the Northeast and 22nd Street between North Bellefontaine Avenue on the east and North Wabash Avenue on the west, to consider the approval of the final plat in the district R-7.5, residential 7.5 to 45 residential lots and 7 tracts. Case or consent docket C5. This is case number CLD final plat 2021-00035. A request to approve a final plat on about 23.8 acres in district R-7.5, located at 8901 Northeast 112th Street, creating 76 lots and 2 tracts. And that concludes our consent docket.
Okay, are there any questions from the commissioners on the consent agenda items C2, C3, or C5? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak on docket items C2, C3, or C5? Please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, Patricia Jensen has raised her hand.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Threats Law Firm, with offices located at 4510 Bellevue. Here today to speak on behalf of the applicant in docket item C3, which is Pembroke Estates 7th plat. Joe, if you could promote Kelly Madinger, because she may share a screen if we need to. And I believe 2 members of the Public Works Department were also going to attend this meeting. We have a number of condition revisions that we have requested of Stacy Lowe, Mr. Chairman, and she agreed to make all of them except for one. So if you look at your conditions in your staff report, the items that I believe Ms. Lowe has agreed to revise is condition number 8, to delete the words any private open space tracts with stream buffer zones, or So the condition would just read for the maintenance of any stormwater detention area tracks. And then she agreed to delete conditions 12 and 13. The condition we are in disagreement with on is condition number 2, which requires, it says that the east half of North Wabash Avenue shall be improved to city standards as required by Chapter 88 to current standards, including curbs and gutters, sidewalks, streetlights, relocating any utilities as may be necessary, and adjusting vertical grades for the road, etc., and obtaining required permit from Land Development Division for said improvement prior to recording the plat or prior to the issuance of building permit, whichever occurs first. Just a little bit of background. This plat is the 7th plat of Pembroke Estates. And we began working on this with the pandemic. So it's been on hold for a while because of the pandemic related issues. But this summer we were able to start moving forward on it. And as we have been doing the public improvement plans for North Wabash Avenue, we've been talking to the one of the adjacent property owners who owns the property on the west side of North Wabash Avenue, because we needed to acquire right of way for the city's standard improvements. It became very clear during those conversations that we were not going to be able to obtain the right of way. So this summer, we met with David Miller in the Public Works Department to discuss that and to discuss how we could design North Wabash Avenue to meet the city's needs, as well as meeting our needs, since we weren't going to be able to obtain the right of way. Mr. Miller was very clear that the city would not use its power of eminent domain to get any right of way from the adjacent property owner, but he was very willing to talk about how we could adjust the street improvement plans as a result of that. So we exchanged a number of emails with Mr. Miller. He ultimately agreed. And I've got an email that shows that to an improvement plan. I want to make it clear that we are spending the same amount of money on the street improvement plans that we've agreed to with the Public Works Department. So it's not a matter of saving money. It's just a matter of the fact that this person is unwilling to grant the right of way to do the city's standard improvement. We asked in an email to Ms. Lowe that she modify this condition to state that the east half of North Wabash Avenue, beginning at the north end of North Prospect Avenue and ending at the previously agreed upon stopping point between the Public Works Department and the applicant along North Wabash Avenue, shall be improved to city standards. At this point, Ms. Lowe has declined to make that revision. I have circled back with the Director of Public Works, who is Michael Shaw, and his Deputy Director, Mark Montgomery, concerning this. They both have stated their agreement to the revised condition, and my understanding is they communicated that to the Planning Department. So we would request that you revise the condition as provided, as I've stated, and as agreed to by the Public Works Department.
Can you make that statement again? So it's improving, did you say
North
Prospect or Wabash?
Yeah, North Wabash. It's that the east half of North Wabash Avenue, beginning at the north end of North Prospect Avenue and ending at the previously agreed upon stopping point between the Public Works Department and the applicant along North Wabash Avenue, shall be improved to city standards.
Okay, I'm just trying to, I'm looking, do you have a picture of that, what you're proposing? By chance, I'm just looking at the, it's kind of hard to see and turn and tell.
Yeah, I believe Kelly, did you promote Kelly, Joe?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Kelly's got exhibit that shows that. She also has the email I'm reading from.
This is the north half, or this is the north portion of the map.
So that's the improvement plan we've submitted to the Public Works Department.
okay, so you're saying the east half of that shown in yellow,
Right,
purple and
right.
blue up to that
Right.
entrance?
Right.
Which would be in line with your west entrance into the portion of the subdivision.
Right.
Okay,
And Kelly can show you the correspondence with David Miller where we agreed to this.
okay.
Kelly, do you want to pull up that email trail?
Mr. Chair, I see Mark Montgomery's on the call as well.
Okay,
Yeah, Mark can provide any additional comments. Thank you.
So can I ask a question,
Yes?
Mr. Chair?
yes,
So does that mean that the improvement will not take place because the adjacent property owner will not sell you the right of way needed to complete the street?
The improvement will take place. It's just a modified improvement. And it addresses all of the city's needs in regards to safety along that street.
Okay, thank you.
So Kelly, you can stop sharing so Mark can provide comments.
so I think Mark needs to be promoted.
I believe he is, or he was.
Right, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, sorry. I'm still, thank you, Council, sorry, I'm still
Yeah,
trying
not
to work
there.
out, I'm still trying to work out all these details of
commission.
technology, you know? Yeah, a couple more years, I'll have Zoom down. No, was it Public Works is in complete agreement with these changes? Was it due to the right-of-way issues? Was it, we've come up with, I've read what David Miller's, the compromises we've worked on. And it still meets all the city's public works requirements on the road. It's just a little bit of a difference just to make sure we do not have to have them get that right away on that one side. And we are in complete agreement with them on these changes.
Okay. Thank you. Stacy, are you available by chance?
Kobe, I don't see her on the call.
Okay,
If I can jump in, Mr. Chair, I think the exhibit that if you do want to go with what is recommended by Public Works and requested by the applicant, that you should we should include that exhibit, because I do think that helps illustrate the words of the condition that they've requested.
okay, yeah,
And you could insert those words by saying that the east half of North Wabash Avenue, beginning at the north end of North Prospect and ending at the previously agreed upon stopping point between the Public Works Department and the applicant, as shown on the exhibit approved by the Public Works Department along North Wabash Avenue, shall be improved to city standards.
okay. Any questions from the commission on this particular issue?
So we don't need actual measurements, just the wording like that works?
Yeah, it's all shown on the exhibit.
The measurements are?
Yeah, everything is.
Well, it's small. I can't see all of that on the screen, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I know.
Joe, does that work for you? For the planning department?
I'm sorry, did you say Joe? I didn't.
Yeah. no,
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting including the exhibit is because of Commissioner Beasley's question, because it adds detail to the words of the condition. Because the only concern I really had with the condition that was proposed is that as agreed upon by Public Works, since Stacy's staff has to enforce the condition, having the exhibit is going to be beneficial to her
Okay.
and her staff.
Okay. Any other questions on, let's see, that's docket item C, what, 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak about the conditions we have open right now, or the projects we have open, C2, C3, or C5? Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Any other questions, comments from the commissioners? If not, I'll take a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that consent docket C2, C5 are approved as on the docket, and C3 is modified for condition 2. Oh, there's some conditions that are being removed, right?
That's correct. That'd be 12 and 13.
The conditions 12 and 13 are removed,
And then condition 8 had the language revised as stated.
and then condition 8 has the language revised as stated.
And then
With-
condition 2
Right.
modified.
Condition 2 is modified
Yeah,
as per our discussion. I don't know,
yeah, and with the inclusion of the exhibit.
with the inclusion of the exhibit. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items C2 and C5 as written. And then modifying docket item C3 to modify language in C2 about the east half of North Wabash to conditions as stated, and following the exhibit that will be included with that, as well as modifying the language in condition number 8 and deleting conditions 12 and 13. So Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please? Maybe she's still not available yet. Anna, can
Allender?
you- Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, so it looks like the motion passes on approval of those conditions or consent agenda items. I'm sorry.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. And so now then, let's go ahead and go to our regular agenda items, beginning with cases to be continued, please.
All right, good morning, everyone. Docket item 1 is case number CPC 2021-00086. This is a request to rezone property at 8450 Oldham Road. Staff is recommending continuance to October 19th, staff and the applicant without fee. Docket item 2, case number SUP 2021-00058. This is a request to approve a special use permit for an open pit sand and gravel operation on Missouri Route 210 at the intersection of Birmingham Levy District Drive. The applicant has not performed public engagement, so staff is recommending continuance to October 19th with fee. Docket item 3, case number SUP 2021-00065. This is a request to approve a special use permit on about 42 acres at 5300 East 155th Street for Ideker Asphalt. This applicant has not revised plans, so staff is recommending continuance to October 19th with fee. Docket item 4 is case number CPC. Oh, I'm sorry, docket item 4 we will hear. So I'm moving on to docket item 5. There are 5 companion cases here, and in all cases, the applicant hasn't performed public engagement. So we're recommending continuance. I'll go ahead and start with the first one, 5.1, case number CPC 2021-00112. This is a request to amend the area plan to change the recommended land use from office to industrial. Docket item 5.2 is case number CPC 2021-00114. This is a request to approve a rezoning from District R80 to M1 to allow for warehousing, wholesaling, and storage on about 10 acres at this location, which is at the southeast corner of Missouri Highway 150 and Prospect. Docket item 5.3, case number CPC 2021-00113. This is a request to approve a development plan for the same. Docket item 5.4, case number SUP 2021-00066. This is a request to approve a special use permit for the same. And docket item 5.5, case number final plat 2021-00026. This is a request to approve a final plat for the same. And again, the applicant needs to perform public engagement. They have not done that yet, so we're recommending continuance to October 19th with 1 fee. The next continuance is docket item 9, case number ROW 00012. This is the vacation of Myrtle Avenue between 52nd Street on the north and 53rd Street on the south. Staff is recommending this case be continued off docket with fee. The purpose for that is to allow the variance to run concurrent with a redevelopment plan that will be coming forward at some point. And at this point, it's not possible for staff to really evaluate fully the vacation without that redevelopment plan. So that's why we're recommending continuance. That concludes the continued items, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just want to confirm, you said with fee for docket items 2, 3, and all of 5, or without fee?
For 2, 3, 5 with 1 fee instead of 1 for each case.
Yeah.
And 9.
Okay, so all of them would have a fee is what you're recommending
Yeah, all of them but number 1.
with no, okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions from the commission regarding continuance of these docket items? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding continuance of docket items 1, 2, 3, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, or case number 9?
Mr. Chairman, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony, and I will take a motion for continuance of those cases, please.
I move to continue docket item number 1, docket item number 2 with fee, docket item number 3 with fee, docket items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5 with 1 fee, and docket item 9 with fee to the date stated on the docket.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so I've got a motion and a second for continuance of those docket items. Anna, can you take roll call, please? Or Lisa, you
She
ready?
may have,
No, I'm here.
Okay,
Sorry, just couldn't get to my mute button. Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crow,
aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes 5-0 for continuance of those docket items. So let's go ahead and move to docket item number 4.
docket item 4 is case number CPC 2020-00137. This is a request to rezone about 1 acre located at the northeast corner of 31st Street and Gillum Road from District M1-5 to District UR Urban Redevelopment to allow for approval of a development plan for a new mixed-use structure containing approximately 160 multifamily units with an amenity space and a restaurant. Shu Wood is the staff planner. However, she's out of the office today, so Zach will be presenting on her behalf.
Good morning. Thank you, Zach Nelson, City Planning staff. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So this next case is for the Levy at Martini Corner. So this is located south of the river, as the name implies, within the Martini Corner district. So a little bit more specifically, the subject site is at the northeast corner of Gillum and 31st Street. There's an existing building currently at that southwest corner of Gillum, or excuse me, at the northeast corner of Gillum and 31st Street. And Gillum itself is an established boulevard. And as a result, this site is subject to the Boulevard and Parkway standards. And then there's also some of the surrounding uses. There is some existing buildings to the east and to the west. And then there is a T, kind of an upside down T alley, as you can see as well. And so I'll get into that in a little bit. So this is looking generally north at the existing building on the site. It's 3 stories. As you can see, it hasn't been maintained for many years. There's currently no landscaping as well. And so this is looking, another view of the building looking north, just at the front of the building. Again, it's in pretty rough shape, as you can see here. So kind of an overview of this request. The applicant is requesting to rezone from M1-5 to UR, which will serve as a development plan. The applicant is seeking PIA tax abatement. And I will show you the plans in just a moment, but the new structure will be mixed use. It'll have 163 multifamily units. It'll have amenity space and a new restaurant as well. And no waivers or deviations are being requested with this project. So here's kind of an overview. North is to the left here. So Gillum is at the bottom, and then 31st Street is on the right. And I just wanted to start with this is just the ground floor plan. It gives you kind of a better idea of the footprint of the building. So the building itself will form kind of a C, and then there will be an outdoor amenity space with a pool here. There will be ground level, underground, or excuse me, covered parking. As you can see here, the development will have a total of 163 multifamily residential units. It'll have just under 5,000 square feet of restaurant space and 175 garage vehicle spaces. It'll also have 18 short-term bicycle spaces and 63 long-term spaces. And then in terms of the actual units themselves, there will be 76 studios, 70 one-bedroom apartments, and 17 two-bedroom units. And so in terms of vehicular access, there will be a curb cut off of Gillum Road here, kind of on the northern portion of the site. And then there will also be a curb cut off of 31st Street that'll be right in, right out only. And then I just wanted to provide this slide really quickly just to kind of give a better representation of where that alley is in relation to this project. And so the only reason I bring this up is because this portion of the alley that kind of bisects the project will need to be vacated, and that's included as one of the conditions of approval on this project as well. And that alley vacation will only need to vacate just the portion within the subject site. So there will theoretically still be the ability to use this alley for adjacent property owners to connect to the east and to the north. So here are some of the building elevations. The building itself will be primarily stone with brick masonry. It'll also have accent stucco and metal panels. And then this is the west elevation on top. This will be the side that faces Gillum Road. And as I mentioned, that's an established boulevard. So the Boulevard and Parkway standards do apply. And so this will comply with the Boulevard and Parkway standards. It'll have a lot of ground level transparency. So just some more elevations here as well. And then here are some perspectives, give kind of a better idea of the scale and the massing. Staff believes that this project will fit, sorry about that, with the area in terms of massing, the architectural materials, and just the overall design. And as a result, staff recommends approval subject to the 34 conditions in the staff report. And I can take any questions that you might have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission regarding docket item number 4?
Yeah,
So-
Zach, I just had one with regards to the public engagement. I might have missed it, but I couldn't see a summary of that.
Yeah, there was the public engagement was provided. I think it's near the end of the staff report. There was a sign-in sheet, and then I think there was one letter from the neighborhood as well. I'll try to find that page number just a moment.
It's on page 8.
Oh, I guess, yeah, it must be just after the staff report itself then.
So the parking is a mixture of kind of underground, kind of cut into the hillside, or is that correct? And then on the second floor,
Yeah, it'll be on the eastern portion of the ground level, and then it'll also be on the second level as well, a portion of the second level.
so that corner is still the restaurant space on 31st and Gillum.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and so you take a right off of 31st, and then there's parking there, and then if you go below that, there's parking behind the spaces on Gillum Road, and then the underneath the or kind of underneath the restaurant. Is that correct?
Yeah, that
Okay,
sounds correct. Yeah.
cool.
Sorry, I'll share this again. This kind of gives a better idea of the access off of 31st Street for the parking. That's just the ground level.
So the only amenity will be the restaurant. They're not going to have any other retail on the first level?
That'll be the only public amenity in terms of retail space. But in terms of the residents themselves, they'll have several other amenities. They'll have a game room and a pool and things like that.
And of the parking spaces, do they have a certain number allocated for restaurant use?
I'm not sure of that, to be honest. I'm not sure if the applicant is on. Looks like it's Kurt Mitcher. I'm not sure if he would be able to answer that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for city staff on docket item number 4? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant at this time. Do we have everybody promoted, Zach? Do you need promoted?
I've promoted Allison Bergman, and I'm attempting to promote Gary Hassenflew. My computer connection is pretty slow, so it's taking time to promote him.
Okay. Allison, do you want to get started?
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Allison Bergman, Hardwick Law Firm. Gary, as soon as he's admitted, can talk about the project in more detail. We've been working on this for quite a long time. We've been working with staff on addressing some of the issues around the sidewalk and the setback and ADA issues. We think we've come to a pretty good resolution on the conditions. There, I believe, are 34 of them, as Zach mentioned. So it's a heavy lift, but it's a really great project. And we have met with the neighbors. We've met with Union Hill, we've met with Longfellow. We are having to bring the building down. It's a historic, or it's an old structure. Unfortunately, it's not salvageable. We did work with a historic consultant who did a internal and exterior review of the building and found that the attributes of the building would not contribute to allow the developer to garner historic tax credits. So it was a tough decision, but they have decided in order to have a project that they are going to have to take the building down. But we're trying to incorporate a plan that would be reflective of some of the materials and be in harmony with the historic buildings around it. And with that, I really don't have anything other than to ask Zach, I guess, if he's been able to admit Gary. And if not, we would just ask for your favorable consideration.
Yeah, looks like he's, Garrison, you're on if you'd like to speak.
I am. I think Allison covered that really well. However, if anybody else has any questions about the design, the development timeframe, any other interactions we've had with the with the neighborhood and the results that I'm happy to address along with Allison.
Yeah, I think go ahead and state some of those as well as state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Garrison Hassan flew 2020 Broadway Boulevard, Kansas City, Missouri, 64108. So yeah, approximately 2 years ago, we actually started on this opportunity and have worked closely with staff to get to the point today with lots of a couple different iterations of the development and a couple other and a number of meetings, two meetings with the neighborhood within 300 feet, and then meeting with Longfellow Heights neighborhood associations and with Union Hill neighborhood associations. Longfellow Heights sent a letter that addressed some of their concerns, and that we responded back comprehensively to that. We feel like we addressed them, and I think staff feels like they were satisfactorily addressed as well. And then Union Hill, they submitted a letter of support for the project. You know, they also had concerns, and we explained what we addressed those as well as we could.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission to the applicant?
I have one to the applicant and to Zach. Where does Hyde Park play into the neighborhood locations around this project?
Well, Hyde, I'm trying to see if I can remember how. And we were required to notify Longfellow Heights and meet with and of course, and then we had a meeting with them. We were not required to meet with Union Hill, but we did anyway. Hyde Park, I don't recall the need presented by anybody to meet with them, but we stand by, you know, happy to do so if someone would volunteer to.
Yeah, and Commissioner, we are north of the north boundary of North Hyde Park, so they were not within the area of the meetings.
That's why I was trying to clarify, because I was thinking their boundary was 31st Street. And that they do come over as far as Gillum on the western border. That's why I was asking.
Right. I don't know what the north boundary is. I actually thought it was Linwood, but at any rate, we did meet the requirements of the city in meeting with the requisite persons within the district boundaries. So it was outside of North Hyde Park.
And similarly, speaking on the city's behalf, we sent notice to all property owners within 300 feet and any registered neighborhood associations. So that would be the Longfellow Community Association and the Union Hill Neighborhood Association.
Okay, thank you. I just was trying to confirm.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. So if there's somebody out there that would like to speak on docket item number 4, please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, someone named Bill Kartsonis had previously raised his hand. He's already been promoted, and I'm working on the rest.
Okay. Let's see.
And it looks like he's the only one that's raised his hand, so he should be ready to speak.
Okay, so Bill, as you take yourself off of mute, please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, I'm Bill Kartsonis. We own the properties directly east of this. We're trying to be a cooperative, good neighbor on this. Our family and business has been in Kansas City for over a century and in this neighborhood for over 90 years. Right now, I can't seem to see online, I can't see the staff's recommendations. So if there's 34 conditions, I don't have any idea what they are. and my greatest interest right now is exactly how the alleys are going to work. I obviously, for the developer to build what they've drafted, they need, they're going to build on top of that east-west piece of the alley that heads west. An earlier draft had shown on their drive, on their property, they're going to continue the north-south alley going south to 31st Street. I see that that's not there anymore, and I again trying to understand what this is doing, and we own lots which are on 31st Street, and as well as the building on the buildings. There's 3 buildings that on the corner of the alley headed south. So basically, you go with that block. The Levy project owns everything, or owns most everything west of the alley, and I own most everything east of the alley, over towards Cherry Street. So anyway, I mean, it looks like an attractive project. In the public engagement last week, Mr. Hassenflue explained how they were going to, they planned to, they were working with the power company to probably bury the power lines, because there's a 13,000 volt line that comes out of the ground and heads west. And so, they can't build through a high voltage power line either. That has to be addressed. And I applaud them if they can get that accomplished, if they can get that safely buried, and if the power company is going to agree with them. Don't have any problems with that. Just trying to understand all 34, what those 34 conditions are. I tried to click the link. Let's see. Joseph gave me a link, but it just takes me to the docket. There's no packet. I don't see a packet of these.
We have to go to the actual case and then click on the link that's on the case, the green lettering for docket item number 4, and then that'll pull up where you can find the actual staff report. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Kartsonis? Hello?
No, I didn't know if the.
Okay, I'll have the applicant address that as before we conclude this presentation. Okay, Joe, is there anybody else that's raised their hand that would like to speak on public engagement?
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay, being a little bit unique here on this one person here, so we'll close public engagement to everybody else, but if Mr. Kartsonis has another question or follow-up based on the answer to what the applicant has, we might entertain that. So going back to the applicant, it looks like there's a couple questions on the handling of the alleyway, the north-south one. I guess the east-west one, the portion will be abandoned. Is that correct? Can you talk about the alleyways a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. That is correct. That as presented by Mr. Rex Winkle, or excuse me, his associate, there was just that portion of the alley would be vacated. We would be burying. We have had talks with Evergy, and we would be burying that line at great expense, but for the benefit of not only us, but for the neighborhood. So that's already included in our project costs. As far as the 34 conditions, I can't list off each one, but I'm sure staff can if Mr. Kartsonis indeed wants to hear them all.
Yeah, I don't really particularly want to go through every one of them today. We could do that outside the meeting, if you like, but one more question then, that's the north-south alleyway. You're still going to maintain the access out to 31st Street from the alley?
Yes, he would.
Okay. All right.
I don't, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at the plan right now and I don't see an alley that goes out to 31st Street currently.
Okay.
I think it's a T intersection and I can share a plan to show you, but it's the north-south alley ends at this T intersection in the middle of the block.
Right.
Okay.
My mistake. I was thinking you were saying Cherry and you said 31st. So my apologies. That is correct.
Okay, so that north-south alleyway will just continue along the east side of the building and stop there, I don't know, a couple hundred feet north of 31st Street. So there's no access
Yes,
right
that's
now
right.
to get out to. Okay,
Right.
gotcha. All right. Okay, anything else to present, applicant, before we close all testimony?
No, sir.
How many stories is this gonna be?
Okay, so at this time, we're going to go ahead and close all testimony. Just speak amongst the commissioners. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
I just wanted to quickly say that I wanted to commend the developer. I know you'll probably deal with a lot more pushback when it comes to PIEA tax abatement, but from a design and land use perspective, I think it's really well done with the number of parking spaces, especially being on bus and bike lane. Having bike lanes right there, and then also keeping some storefronts on the corner is really a really great piece, and not deviating from the Boulevard and Parkway standards. So we spent hours debating minor details of the Boulevard and Parkway standards, trying to defend them. So thank you for doing that. If no one else has any comments, I can make a motion.
Please do.
All right, I move to approve docket item number 4 with conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4 as presented. Anna, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Yes. Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 5-0 for approval of docket item number 4. Thank you for bringing the project in and good luck getting it constructed and up. Looking
Thank you
forward
very
to
much. Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Yep. So Commissioner Enders, I don't think you ever believed that an E in your last name, you'd get go last in alphabetical order.
It's a first.
Okay, let's go to docket item number 6, please.
Item number 6 is case number CPC 2021-00148. This is a request to approve, to make a finding of blight and approve an urban renewal plan, LCRA urban renewal plan for the Santa Fe Area Council, subject to the land clearance for redevelopment law of Missouri on about 20 blocks, generally bound by 27th on the north, Indiana on the east, Linwood on the south, and Prospect on the west. This is Shoe Wood's case. However, Genevieve Kahn will be presenting on her behalf. And as you all know, in the case of these plans, most of the presentation is covered by EDC and their staff.
Hi, welcome Genevieve.
One moment, get my screen up.
I'm promoting Dan Moy and Pat Starrett right now.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, one second. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, Genevieve Khan from planning staff, and I'll be presenting in place of Shu Wood. Oops, sorry. Docket item number 6 for the Santa Fe Area Council UR plan is required by the Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority for a tax incentive plan. Site is generally located southeast of the downtown core between Highway 71 and Interstate 70. The site is approximately 20 blocks and bounded by East 27th Street to the north, Indiana Avenue to the east, East Linwood Boulevard to the south, and Prospect Avenue to the west. The area contains multiple types of residential zoning in the center and commercial zoning on Prospect and Indiana Avenue, as well as some existing UR zoning here. This is a view looking north on Prospect Avenue, showing some commercial use on the edge of the site. And then a view looking south on Benton Boulevard, showing some of the various housing types on the site. And then another view looking east on 31st Street, again, showing some different residential housing types. For case number CPC 2020-00148, staff recommends approval without conditions as this request conforms to the heart of the city area plan, and staff offers no recommendation to the Blight Study. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for Genevieve regarding this project? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicants.
Yeah, good morning. I believe Genevieve has some slides for me to share. I'm Dan Moy. I'm the Executive Director of the Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority. I'll provide a very brief overview for you and then hand it over to Pat Sterrett, who worked on the Blight Study for this plan.
All right, thank you.
And Genevieve, I think since you showed the map, we can probably skip the first couple slides and just move into the text.
Okay. Are you able to see that full screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
We are still just seeing the intro slide.
Oh, 1 minute. Sorry.
Perfect. There we go. Okay, just some brief history on the Santa Fe neighborhood and this site. The applicant for the project or the plan is the Santa Fe Area Council in the city of Kansas City, working with the LCRA. This covers the larger Santa Fe neighborhood, which is north and east of Prospect and Linwood. This was once a very prosperous middle-class white neighborhood at the beginning of the 1900s. And began to grow in popularity. They implemented some racial covenants at the time, and in the late 1940s, those covenants were struck down by the Missouri Supreme Court, and this became a very prosperous area for Black Kansas Cityans, leading into the 1960s when there became some significant disinvestment because of desegregation. The current neighborhood has a large number of vacant lots and deteriorating buildings. And so moving on to the next slide, APD and Pat Sterrett were able to perform a blight study for this location. Our staff recommendation is approval of finding of blight and approval of the Santa Fe Area Council Urban Renewal Plan. And that has already been approved by the LCRA. And I'll turn it over to Pat now I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll also turn it over to Pat to review the blight study.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear the blight study. And then if there's any questions after that, we'll ask them all at the same time.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Pat Sterrett of Sterrett Urban LLC. And as Dan mentioned, In partnership with APD, Urban Planning and Management of Atlanta, we prepared the blight study for you that you'll see today. Next slide, please, Genevieve. Thank you. The proposed Santa Fe Area Council URA contains about 789 properties, about 125 acres of fee simple property, and about 158 acres when including public right-of-way. 40 of those properties have already had a previous blight finding. There are 3 urban renewal areas that already exist within the boundaries, primarily along the western and southern boundary of the proposed URA. 50 of the 789 properties are tax exempt, of which 34 are owned by the Land Bank and Homesteading Authority due to failure of tax payments. And there are another 206 of the 739 taxable properties, a very high percentage that are tax delinquent. In 2020, billable taxes amounted to $322,000, and the current taxable assessed value in 2020 was about $6 million. That's an increase of about 23.5% since 2016. The area has seen some population decline since 2000, about 16%. Within not quite half a mile of the area, and its median household income is $27,680, which is far less than the 2020 median household income for the city as a whole of just over $70,000. It is a continuously distressed area for now quite some time, as Dan mentioned. Next, please. The blighting factors that are present are primarily deterioration and insanitary or unsafe conditions. The deterioration of site improvements primarily include roofs, broken windows, rotting soffits and fascia, failure of finishes, deterioration of surface parking and driveways, and fences and retaining walls. Altogether, there's 231 substandard structures currently within the area, and 68 of those are with serious deterioration. As you can see, and some of these are, I would say, are the worst examples within the area of deterioration, but quite a bit of deterioration on both the left and the right. Multifamily property there on the right. Next, please. Dangerous buildings here on both the left and right as well, with substantial deterioration of both on all primary structural elements. Again, here as well, within the area, and these as well, deterioration of all primary structural elements of the homes. Multifamily properties also pose a problem, especially with deterioration of their surface parking lots, and there are quite a few ancillary structures, garages in particular, that are detached from homes that are also in need of substantial repair or just simply demolition. Retaining walls are also a concern within the area, and driveways, again, there on the right. Most of them are also deteriorated. There are a few streets, a couple of streets within the area in which there's very little deterioration or just minor problems that need to be repaired. But for the most part, overall, there is a predominance of these conditions throughout the proposed urban renewal area. The insanitary and unsafe conditions include overgrown vegetation, cracked and uneven sidewalks, and trash and debris throughout the area. Next slide. A lot of illegal dumping, overgrown vegetation, as you can see on the sides of both of these streets. A car wash that's on Prospect that's in poor condition, and the site itself also not in very good condition. Overgrown lots, and there are a lot of them, 174 vacant lots throughout the area. Sidewalks broken in large part due to the roots of mature trees, and then trash and debris, which is fairly common in some areas. Again, more illegal dumping, more overgrown vegetation that you see. Altogether, we found insanitary unsafe conditions existing throughout the urban renewal area, as well as deterioration of site improvements, and the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire and other causes. The deterioration of site improvements and the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire and other causes also is cause for the economic liability. That includes also contributing to that are the vacant lots, 174, the land bank properties of 34, substandard structures of 231, and those with serious deterioration at 68, contributing to affecting 507 properties, or just over 64% of the area. Economic liability, there's a very low average assessed value of property within the area of just over $7,600. 174 of the 789 again of those lots are vacant. That's an impaired economic value that's brought about by physical deterioration, a high level of vacancies throughout the area as well, dangerous buildings, and the high rate of delinquent taxes. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Are there any questions from the commission to the applicant on this project? For me, I'm just kind of curious. I know this is just a piece to get started in this area, but what's the intent of how and what kind of improvements will be made going forward? Is it to help the current residents with some financial assistance? Is it a total redo? Is it a combination of everything? I'm just kind of curious what it's going to be like moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So the applicant is actually the neighborhood council itself, and so they are present. They can talk about what their goals are for the plan. And I know there's several members of the community that are here to support the plan as well. So I think they'd be best. I think as a general rule, yes, it's exactly that, to help the existing neighbors and to support the neighborhood as it continues to grow and be revitalized. But I believe Marquita Taylor Brockman is on the call and could speak to the overall intent of the area council.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? I'd kind of like to hear about that. Just curious, and I'm in support of this project. I'm just kind of curious what it looks like and how and what will happen as it moves forward. Just if there's anything we could do to help.
It looks like Marquita has been promoted now, so she can speak.
Yeah. There she is. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much, commissioners, and certainly for your participation and reviewing this request. Certainly to answer your question, Santa Fe, certainly within the past 5 years has, we're working hard to make some serious improvements in our neighborhood. We recently received some CCED dollars to help us with the rehabs on our homes, which is going to be monumental to us trying to bring this neighborhood back to what it should be, certainly. And I will also share that our neighbors are extremely engaged in what's going on with our neighborhood right now. We're also doing some special 311 preventive measures on actually just going into our neighbors and going in and fixing their homes for them. So we are really engaged and excited about this opportunity. And we thank PIA for taking this on and representing us in this capacity. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope I answered your question, Commissioner Kroll.
Yeah, I think so. It's obviously, in my opinion, kudos to you and your team, all the work that you've done up to this point. I know, again, you're just getting started, so there's a lot of work yet to do to go, and certainly appreciate everything that you're doing on this project. So great work.
And Commissioner Crowell, just in case the commission's not aware, the LCRA has a program in place that would allow a homeowner that receives some of those funds, as she mentioned, from CCED, to receive a tax abatement on any increases from the improvement. So that's one of the initial plans, is that we can leverage that investment from CCED to help protect those homeowners once they make those improvements.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission on this before we open it up to public testimony? Okay, seeing none. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's somebody out there that would like to speak about docket item number 6, please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chairman, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else from all the applicants before we move into vote by the commission? Okay, so let's go ahead and close all testimony then and look for a vote from the commission. I believe it's just the finding of blight on this one. We don't have to do any plan or anything like that, do we? Joe?
Looks like it's a renewal plan, and then is it finding a
Yeah.
blight?
This one's both. This one's
Okay.
both the finding of blight and the urban renewal plan.
Okay, so let's, if we can, we'll take 2 separate motions, one for the finding of blight and one for the plan, renewal plan.
I move for case number 6, find to approve the finding of blight.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for the finding of blight with respect to docket item number 6. Lisa, are you back to take roll call on this, or Anna, if you can do it? Either one?
Lisa's microphone's not working, so I'll be
Okay.
doing it for the remainder of the
Perfect.
meeting. Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes for the finding of blight. Now let's go for the motion for the renewal plan.
I move to approve case number 6, the renewal plan without conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of the renewal plan and docket item number 6. So Anna, if you can take roll call on that motion, please.
Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes for approval of the renewal plan. We, again, appreciate you bringing the project in. Good luck moving forward and thank you for all your hard work you've done so far.
Thank you for your support.
Yep. Okay, so that moves us to docket item number 7, please.
Item 7 is case number CPC 2021-00165. This is a request to consider a finding of blight for Ridgeview Heights, PIEA, and determine that the area is blighted and insanitary and in need of redevelopment pursuant to the Missouri PIEA law. This is located on about 16 acres on both sides of Cleaver Boulevard between 31st Street and 34th Street. Shoewood is the staff planner. However, Andrew Clark is covering this for her today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. I'm presenting docket number 7 for Ms. Shoewood, and it is the Ridgeview Heights Apartments, and the applicant is seeking approval of a new finding of blight.
Okay.
The project area is located central east side of city limits, and is bound between 31st Street and 33rd Street to the south, Hardesty to the east, and Linwood Boulevard to the west. And the site is split in the middle by Emmanuel Cleaver Boulevard. Staff does not make recommendations for the finding of blight, but we do recommend approval without conditions. And can we promote Mr. Starrett and David McCoubry.
David has been promoted as has Rocks and Coke, and Pat is still on. He is still promoted as on as a panelist.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. McCoubry.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. David McCoubry, I am the Executive Director of the PIEA. We are here today to satisfy a statutory requirement for a finding of blight. In this instance, it's to extend the abatement for another 25 years to create and preserve existing affordable housing. So if I'm happy to answer any questions, but obviously Ms. Cope represents the redeveloper in this instance, and Mr. Sterrett is our consultant and has conducted our blight study, which was approved by the PIEA last month. So like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions, or if Roxanne would like to chime in here, I suppose she's welcome. That's up to you, Chairman. But otherwise, Pat Sterrett will present the blight study.
Okay. Sorry, Roxanne, you're on mute there. There we go.
Roxanne Koch, yes, representing Eagle Point, which has a contract to purchase the property. And I don't have anything to add to this. I think that I'm just happy to answer any questions that everyone would have after Patrick goes through his blight presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Pat Sterrett of Sterrett Urban. And Andy, if you could go to the next slide. This is an existing PIEA General Development Plan area. The project consists, as Andy mentioned, of about 16 acres, and the entire plan area is about 80 acres. That plan was approved on December 5th of 2002 by the city with the finding of blight. As you can see here, another map of the project area bisected by Cleaver 2. The neighborhood is Boulevard Village, which recently has stabilized population decline, which was greater than 25% between 2000 and 2010. The median household income of $26,183 is not quite 50% of the median household income of Kansas City, Missouri, and it is a long distressed neighborhood. This apartment project was formerly Boulevard Village, constructed in 1950 for housing for veterans of World War II. In 1986, the property was insured under HUD's 221D4 program, but 14 years later, the property was placed in foreclosure. That property was transferred to community builders with assistance from HUD and through the Industrial Development Authority. And in 2002, the project was awarded low-income housing tax credits and PIEA tax abatement. It was a $13.4 million rehab that was conducted. And as you can see in the next slide, the slide on the left is Boulevard Village, and the slide on the right then is Ridgeview Heights as it is today after the renovations in 2002. The property consists of 7 parcels, about 16 acres. There are 48 two-story buildings, 2 non-contiguous areas, as you saw on the map, 22 buildings on the west parcel or the west tract, and 26 buildings plus a 1-story office on the east. There are a total of 192 apartments. 20 of those are 3-bedroom and also 1-bedroom units, and 152 2-bedroom units. Effective August 28, 2021, the definition of blight changed. Gone are the factors of defective or inadequate street layout and improper subdivision or obsolete platting, but otherwise the definition remains the same. The 2 primary factors include insanitary or unsafe conditions. That includes poor drainage, overgrown vegetation, trash and debris, and non-compliance with the ADA, and that's found on all parcels. You can see the poor drainage to the left with silt on the sidewalks, as well as deterioration of the steps and the retaining wall. and poor drainage behind a retaining wall there on the right. A lot of the buildings, water is not able to drain away from the buildings. The topography is such that, and with no drainage system, there's quite a bit of water that stands adjacent to the buildings and has contributed to water getting into a number of the common areas, the laundry areas, and on the first floor of a number of these buildings. You can also see the erosion that's there on the right due to the poor drainage. Some catch basins, which are completely impacted and full of dirt and silt and debris, as you see there on the left, as well as the drain there on the right. Overgrown vegetation that you see in the playground area, as well as on the right with one of the buildings, which also contributes to the biggest problem on the site, which is water intrusion into the buildings. Deterioration, the aging and deteriorating improvements, it's primarily a primary deterioration of walls due to water intrusion, failure of finishes, deterioration of fences and walls, damage, disconnected and deterioration of downspouts, and then infrequently deterioration of fascia and soffits. And again, these are conditions that are found on all parcels throughout the project area. There are 40 units that are not rentable. They have been stripped of wallboard, of insulation, have had some minor repairs done due to water intrusion, which has led to the growth of mold within a number of those units. That's 40 out of 192. And it would appear as we go through this that there are conditions which haven't led to that, haven't elevated to that of mold perhaps. But as you can see here, there's been deterioration of the steel structural framework. In fact, the sill plate that you see there on the left, sill plates in a number of those units that are not rentable simply corroded because of the presence of water that got into that intruded into the walls. Next. You can also see the water transmitting through walls. Here on the left, you can see the actual outline of the steel structure, the steel frames, the studs on the upper floor, and you can make it out just barely on the lower floor. That lower floor is a unit that's not rentable. That top floor is still inhabited. Again, poor drainage, and a lot of that evidenced with the stucco walls, which are not vented, are not constructed as a rain screen wall to help remove moisture from behind the veneer. You can see that there are cracks and holes there at the bottom of each of these walls. And occasionally, when there's no trim in the middle of these buildings to cover the seams between the first and second floor, you're also seeing water that is escaping through the stucco at those points. And at times it's been fairly extensive, as you can see from some of the more recent repair work that's been done. As I mentioned, some of the downspouts are either missing, damaged, or just simply need to be replaced. Also some other structural damage with basement walls, fences on the site, and retaining walls, all of which are deteriorating due to the poor drainage of water throughout the site. Of the 7 parcels, all 7 display insanitary or unsafe conditions, as well as deterioration of site improvements. Each of them has at least 1 blighting factor. The parcels that have a predominance of blighting factors are all 5 of the 7 parcels that have been improved. The other 2 parcels are vacant and overgrown with vegetation there on the property. The economic liability is due to reduced negligible income. These have low assessed values compared to similar developments. In fact, another property that the city has assisted with, Jazz Hill Homes, actually has a higher assessed value per unit than what this project does. It has low tax revenue. Part of that is due, of course, to the PIA tax abatement that's in place. It's in its 19th year, but 50% of the assessed value is still taxed at $12,704. So even if that was at 100%, the tax revenue is still quite low. The impaired economic value is brought about by physical deterioration, the insanitary unsafe conditions, and a high level of vacancy, which exceeds 21% throughout the project area. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission regarding the blight study?
So,
Okay.
I guess this might be less about the blight study, but I guess the history of the building or the buildings. I'm a little confused as to who owns it. Is there an existing blight finding, and why hasn't that been remediated? Because isn't that the intent of the incentive and the finding of blight, to actually remediate the blight? I don't know. I'm just a little confused as to what's going on.
Sure. This is Roxanne Koch, and let me take a stab at that unless David wants to address that.
Is it okay if we stop sharing the screen, by the way, just so we can, there we go.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Could I add one more thing to that so you can address it as well, Roxanne? Did I
Sure.
hear him say that there are units that are inhabited? People are living there?
Yes, so there are 192 units total, and I believe 40 of those units, and Patrick Sterrett may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe 40 of those units are down, uninhabitable.
Okay.
So currently the property is owned by Community Builders of Kansas City. And yes, I think back in 2002, the property was found to be blighted, 2002 or 2001, and there was a PIA plan adopted. In part, it was a larger PIA plan area, it encompassed more than just this property. But this property did go through a full rehab under, I think, what was Swope Community Builders, I think, at the time. And unfortunately, and we don't represent that property owner, we do represent the contract purchaser right now, which is Eagle Point, who has a contract to purchase the property. But unfortunately, over the years, the property came back into disrepair. And the current property owner is not in a financial position, is my understanding, in order to be able to raise the funds necessary to remediate the blighting conditions. And the only way to bring these properties back online and to do the substantial rehab, and we're talking about a rehab of about $53,000 per unit on average across the 192 units, we need to have another 25 years of real property tax abatement. And pursuant to Missouri law, you can have another 25 years of abatement on a piece of property, provided that there is an updated finding of blight. So that's why we're coming before you. We were at the PIA in, let's see, I'm losing track of my months. I believe that was in August, maybe it was early September, to receive their recommendation of a finding of blight, and also an approval of a tax abatement that would be subject to the finding of blight by the city council. So once this makes its way through the city planning commission, this will proceed to the full city council, and they will have to make a finding of blight before we can proceed to actually receive any tax abatement for the property. Hopefully that addressed your question. I think that this is something that is unusual, or at least it has been unusual in the past. There could be a situation where you find this coming forward more as properties might find themselves in re-blighting condition, especially some of the affordable housing properties in Kansas City.
What's the guarantee that this is not going to be blighted again in 20 years? I mean, it's 20 years. I mean, my house is over 100 years, almost 100 years old, and it's not blighted. Like, and so I guess I'm struggling with this because it's not that long ago that this was renovated.
I can't say that there's, what the guarantee is. I know that we'll have a development agreement with the PIA, and we're working on some language in that development agreement that would address what consequences there may be should the property fall back into a blighting condition. But I think that the only thing that's before you all today is to take a look at the factors that we're presenting to you for a finding of blight and asking for your recommendation as to whether or not the property should be deemed to be blighted, again, based on the facts that you see them as today. But it's not actually before this body to make a determination as to whether or not any additional incentives should be granted.
If I may, Chairman, may I address that, please?
Sure. Thank
you. So I appreciate your question, Commissioner Baker. It's a sentiment that was shared by many at the PIA board. It took us 3 hours over 2 meetings. It was tabled the first meeting, and we came back a week or two later and considered it again to get the board comfortable with the same sentiment. These projects, your house is over 100 years old, but the good news is it doesn't get the treatment that this affordable housing project has taken over the years. It's tough. I mean, we've seen several of these that return, or we have a reoccurrence of blight, and that's I appreciate the optics, and it's hard. It takes a while to get your head around what's going on there, but the situation is if you have to spend the money to the extensive money to re-renovate these projects and properties, that it's going to put these developers, or I should say the owners of the properties, in the red, right? I mean, it's very difficult and it's expensive to do. So when we do that, the owner can then go to the MHDC or HUD and be awarded, if you will, a rent increase. So, it's just a delicate balance. If they have to spend millions of dollars in the renovation, and they sometimes do, and it goes into red, then they're able to raise the rents, and then, it's hurting the people we're trying to help. If these things aren't abated, and if they have to spend those, it's not a perfect situation. And I share your sentiment that I don't like the optics, but it's important to understand the difficulty in trying to maintain and operate these high-tech projects.
David, what's the obligation once they've done the renovation on the maintenance? For me, there looks like it's just been a lack of maintenance on these properties. So just wondering, out of curiosity more than anything else, on what's the obligation of the developer or the owner if they get the incentives to keep on maintaining their property?
Well, there's several entities involved here, right? There's the PIEA if this is approved. There's MHDC, and there's HUD, and each of those we're working on language. This is kind of an unusual thing for us, but MHDC and HUD, they have annual inspections each year, and if they allow the property to return to a blight condition, then they're placed on a list, and they're scrutinized, and the oversight becomes more difficult for the owner, and they're required to come up with the dollars to do it. And if they cannot come up with the capital to reinvest in the project, then they're pretty much obligated to find a new investor, a new owner to take it over, to reclaim or preserve the existing affordable housing. So, I mean, we may ultimately terminate the abatement, but again, terminating the abatement obviously would increase the cost of the project, and the owner would then probably be allowed to increase the rents. So, does that really make sense? I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not a perfect situation. I wish it were different, but it's just to preserve and create affordable housing in Kansas City, it's just difficult.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission for the applicant?
I do, but I'm trying to keep myself focused on the blight study. But he's raised some questions that I hope has been addressed as far as the drainage issue for the new potential owners to help. What's the word I want to use?
Mitigate.
To help, yeah, thank you. That's the word I want. Those issues as well. And did I not hear that we are still trying to maintain this as an affordable housing complex? I did hear that in your narrative, right?
This is Roxanne, Commissioner Beasley, and that is correct. I think
Okay.
that is so what the next step in this is that they would close on the property in combination with a financing through MHDC and sale leaseback with the PIEA that will provide for the sales tax exemption on construction materials to help offset the extensive costs. And the project budget does include addressing all of the factors that lead to this finding of blight. So all of those conditions will be addressed as part of this redevelopment of the property. As I had mentioned, there's some nearly $53,000 per unit that's going into the rehabilitation of this property. And ultimately the goal here is to essentially retain this property on to continue to be able to receive those tax credits and to continue that HAP contract in place so that we can continue it as affordable, and not only just the units that are currently occupied as affordable, but then to put back online those 40 units that aren't, and giving homes to 40 more families that otherwise would not have a place to go in Kansas City. One of the things that I might note with this property, and again, it's not easy. I recognize for the city, anybody involved in the approval process on this to continue this or to see property that's received tax abatement find itself in this condition. It's not something that our client didn't own the property, wasn't involved in, but folks reached out to them to say, hey, this is something that we know that Eagle Point does. They come in, they find some of the most distressed properties, take them over, make those improvements, and as they dug in deeper into this piece of property, they recognize that they want to do it right. They want to make all these conditions, take care of all of these blighting conditions, and the only way to do that is to continue with the tax abatement that ultimately is being requested, that we can only receive if there is the finding of blight. And then ultimately, one other point of note is that this is some of the most affordable housing for some of the most economically challenged residents that we have in Kansas City, Missouri. The rents on this are super low compared to what the area median income would allow under your typical HUD financing. And I won't get into all the details of that, but I just thought it was helpful to point out that these are some of the lowest rents that you will find in the entire city for housing.
You did anticipate one of my other things that might help with Commissioner Baker's concern of it falling into this type of situation before, and that is the experience and reputation of the new owner. For us to hear that this would not be his first foray, I guess would be the word, into this type of thing is heartwarming to hear, that they can come in with the experience to help bring this back to a livable standing that is affordable. So you might remember to put that out there to let people know that it's somebody experienced coming in to do this, and hopefully we would not come back to a blighted state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak on docket item number 7, please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
There is a person named Neil Martel that I'm promoting.
Okay. So I don't see him promoted. So Neil, as you're being promoted and you take yourself off mute, please state your name and address for the record.
Looks like he went back on mute. Neil,
Yeah,
you're on mute.
yeah.
And Neil is with Eagle Point.
Okay.
There we are. Good morning. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Neil Martel with Eagle Point Development. We are the contract purchaser of the property located in at 125 John Roberts Road, South Portland, Maine. It's where our corporate headquarters are. I just want to, I guess, address a couple of the questions that were brought up here this morning. First and foremost, we've been doing this for over 20 years. We've been in Kansas City for about 15 or 16 of those years. We've tackled some really tough projects in Kansas City. I think in the state of Missouri right now, we have 11 properties, about 1,300 units. Back in the early 2000s, we tackled a project called Armour Boulevard that consists of Linda Vista, what's the other two?
Bainbridge.
Bainbridge Apartments, thank you. Similar situation, a couple hundred units in really rough shape, tough crime, lots of uninhabitable units. We've put the time and effort and money into turning that property around, and I would say that that's considered a pretty good success story for us. As has been discussed here, the optics aren't great on this. We can talk about what's happened in the past that's didn't happen under our watch. What we're here to really discuss is sort of our plan going forward and the solution. We feel that we have we've lined up the resources, as Roxanne indicated. We've got about a $10 million rehab budget to really address landscaping, site work, the moisture remediation, concrete, asphalt, getting in, turning all those units back around, the ones that are down. And in fact, I think that number has creeped over 40 in recent months. So, we'll be touching all the surfaces of the property, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, paint, roofs, you name it. We'll be going through these sort of top to bottom. And I guess the one thing that I really wanted to touch on, I know that there's concern about, how do we prevent this from going back into a blight situation going forward. Not only do we have, that the housing authority involved, there's a partial subsidy contract here, so they'll be monitoring the property. We'll have the PIEA, we will have MHDC doing their annual inspections. And we also have an investor who will be holding us accountable. We have a pretty detailed contract with them where they're coming out for annual inspections as well. And, they have, we have guarantees in this where if the property falls into, disrepair, they can call on those guarantees and force us to make the repairs. We're excited to take on this project. We think that we can make a real impact here and turn this property around. It's unfortunate what's happened. There's been, I think, just a cash crunch, low rents, and an inability to repair units, and that just kind of creates this downward spiral of the property that they're just kind of stuck in. And so we were contacted by the seller to see if we would be willing to sort of step in and try to turn this around. We've gone through most of the process with MHDC. We've received a conditional approval from them for about $7.25 million of tax credits. We should have that finalized here in the coming weeks. And, pending the outcome of this process here, we'll be ready to start probably just after the new year. And I'm happy to take any other questions that you guys may have.
Okay. Any questions for the for Neil on this? Commissioner Baker? Not putting you on the spot or anything.
How long do you think the development would take? You said after the first of the year you plan on starting.
Yeah, we've got right now we're scheduled for about 18 months of rehab at the property.
And did I hear you're going to be your own property manager?
Yes, we have our own management company. We've managed our own property since 2007. And our main, actually the largest holding of properties we have is right there in Kansas City. The president of our management company is housed there. We have our regional managers based there. That's really, frankly, from an operational standpoint, that's our stronghold. Yes, we will be managing the property very stringently.
Locally. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Joe, is there anybody else out there from the public that's raised their hand? And I'm not calling on Mr. McCooper yet.
Sorry, no, Mr. Chair, there isn't.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close public testimony then. Mr. McCoubrey?
Thank you again. I just wanted to make sure that Chairman Crowell, that your question was answered, because this is an unusual situation. I mean, we have an existing PIA plan and there was a blight finding, and why do we have to return to get another blight finding? So if I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to practice law here without a license. So Roxanne, would you mind providing your interpretation? I don't think you did that. I don't think we answered this question. So please.
Apologize. Yes, so there is a Missouri Supreme Court decision. So there's a Missouri constitutional provision that does say that you can, that pursuant to PIA and other statutory acts that we have out there, the legislature has authorized the ability to have 25 years of tax abatement. There's a Missouri Supreme Court case that specifically provides that in the event of a reoccurrence of blight, that you can continue to offer another up to 25 years of tax abatement. So that's the reason why we're coming back to receive to make this request for a new finding of blight, given the condition of the property. And while the PIA has given conditional approval of a project for a continuation of another 25 years of this tax abatement, that's all conditioned on the blight finding being made ultimately by the city council. Did that answer your question? So, and this is something that the city attorney office has reviewed as well. So.
Okay,
just
all right, thank you. Any other questions from the commission regarding this case? All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and close all testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I will take a motion, please. And just recall that this is just a refinding of blight. We don't have a plan on this particular docket item.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve the finding of blight on docket item 7.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for finding of blight on docket item number 7. Can we take a roll call, please, Anna?
Yes. Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 5-0 for the finding of blight with docket item number 7. Thanks for bringing it in and good luck with the project. I'm sure we'll be watching that as it goes forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that takes us to docket item number 8, please.
All right, number 8 is case number CPC 2021-00125. This is a request to consider rezoning from District B3-2 to District UR Urban Redevelopment and approval of a preliminary development plan, which also serves as a preliminary plat for the Martin City Apartments, which is a 180-unit multifamily development located at the southeast corner of 135th Street and Holmes Road. This case belongs to Olufu Agbaji, but we do have a different staff planner presenting on it. And I have forgotten who that is.
That
Zach Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So this next case is the applicant team for this next case rather is Lamine Yang and Eric Motley. And as Joe mentioned, this is located in the far south portion of the city in Martin City. A little more specifically, the general site is located on the east side of Holmes Road, near 135th Street. And then more specifically, the subject site itself is at the southeast corner of 135th and Holmes Road. The site itself is currently being used as the Martin City Paintball Center. In terms of some of the other surrounding land uses, the Jack Stack restaurant is just to the north. There's a Sutherland's to the west here. And then the Reno Motorsports is to the immediate south. And then the Blue River is to the east here, as you can see. And the subject site itself is B3-2. and Holmes Road is currently being improved. It's a capital project being improved by Public Works. And that portion of the capital project includes this portion of Holmes Road. I think it ends a little bit further south at like 137th or 139th, something like that. And then I just wanted to provide this real quick. This shows that a portion of the site, the south portion, is within a floodplain, and there's also a regulated stream that goes through the site. So that does limit the developable portion of the site. And then I also wanted to mention that there is a companion case with this as well. The applicant is required to submit a minor subdivision to split the lot. And so this is what the split will look like. The western third approximately will remain B3-2, and then the existing larger portion to the rear will be rezoned to UR. So kind of an overview of what's being requested. The proposed site will be 13 acres. As I mentioned, it is zoned B3-2. The applicant is requesting to rezone to UR. There will be a total of 180 units in 4 residential buildings. 218 parking spaces will be provided. And then in terms of amenities, there will be a pool and clubhouse. There'll be a fitness area, a media building, a large dog park, and pickleball courts. This will also serve as a preliminary plat, and all of this will be done within a single phase. So in terms of the site plan and kind of its layout, as I mentioned, there will be 4 residential buildings kind of oriented, which will create a central courtyard area where most of the amenities will be located. There will be a private drive off of Holmes Road here with a kind of a turnaround, which will allow for parking for the leasing office, which will be at the front. There's a pool and media pool house, and then a media building, as I mentioned, pickleball courts just to the north of the pool house. And then tract E on the east side here is the dog park I mentioned. And then there will also be individual storage units in this northeast corner here. There will be detention ponds in this north portion, and then this long sliver on the southeast portion as well. And then all the drives within the subject site will be private. Vehicular access will be provided from 2 curb cuts off of 135th Street, as you can see here, and then this private drive off of Holmes Road as well. And the plan also shows a new cul-de-sac turnaround here. So 135th Street will be extended slightly to provide that access. In terms of landscaping, the site will be heavily landscaped. There'll be a lot of new street trees, private street trees rather, but there will be public street trees along 135th Street. And then there will be a lot of internal landscaping as well. And this will all comply with the landscaping standards. And then in terms of the buildings themselves, this is building B, but this will be typical of all 4 buildings. Be 4 stories. They'll be primarily stone with brick. There will be some EPIS, and there will be horizontal and vertical lap siding as well. There'll be dormer windows on the top here, and kind of a good mixture of different facades, as you can see. And then there will be ground level garages as well, as you can see here on some of the buildings. And then these are just the amenity buildings, just to briefly show you those. The clubhouse here. This will be the pool house, and then the kind of the dog wash facility as well. So staff has reviewed this against the rezoning criteria and also against the development code criteria, or development plan criteria rather. Staff believes that this project complies with all of that criteria. This went to DRC in September. And at that meeting, the DRC recommended approval subject to the 38 conditions in the staff report. And according to Olafur, he's spoken with the applicant, and the applicant is in agreement with all the conditions within the staff report. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Are there any questions from the commission for city staff?
Zach, could you explain one more time the division of the property into the 2 parcels?
Yeah, let me share that slide real quick, just a moment. Yeah, so the intent is to split the property essentially so that just this kind of the eastern 2/3 will be the rezone to UR. And then the project, or excuse me, the area basically right along Holmes will be separate. And that will allow for potential pad sites in the future.
Gotcha, thanks. And what is the homes facing side being zoned as through this?
It'll just remain as it currently is. It'll be
Okay, gotcha.
B3-2. Yep.
Cool, thank you.
Sure.
Is that normal to have that many colors on your facade?
I think that we're kind of seeing that more and more in development patterns, but I think the applicant could probably speak to the architectural concept a little bit better than I could.
Yeah, I'm not a stickler about that kind of stuff, but that kind of, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me at the moment.
I like it.
You like it, Forrestine?
I
don't
do.
know.
I also like the fact that I heard him say that there's on-site storage units for the apartment dwellers to use. I think that's a neat feature.
We do have, this is Joe, we do have policies in all of our area plans, including this one, that requires or that recommends that the massing of large buildings be broken up and to appear as smaller buildings. And one of the most common ways that people are trying to meet that is by changes in color rather than changes in material. You can do either one, of course, and then of course architectural changes in addition to that. But to Zach's point, I think that's why we're seeing it a bit more, is people are trying to achieve that policy objective.
Okay, any other questions from the commission to city staff? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant. Is the applicant available?
Joe, if you could promote Lamine, please.
Yeah, I'm promoting Lamine now, and there was another person who had their hand raised, but they lowered it. So I'm not sure, Lamine, if there was someone else I was supposed to promote, please let me know.
Yes, good morning. Lamine Yang with from Brown, 1020 East 8th Street, KTMO 64106. Yes, Joe, I have Matt Blevins with me as the developer, and Chris Guthrie. Eric Motley is also part of the development team. He should be promoted as well. And then the architect, Joel Thomas, is on as well.
Okay, I'll promote both of them.
Okay, is everybody there?
Yeah, that's everyone.
Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay.
You have Joel Thomas promoted?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is it possible to see you guys? There we go. All right. Anything to add to the presentation from city staff?
I think Zach covered the presentation very well. And as he mentioned, the development team is in compliance or agreement with all the conditions noted. So, Matt, if you guys have anything to add, please go ahead.
We don't have anything specifically to add necessarily, but we do feel like we're invested in this community right here, and our main goal is to be additive to the overall feel and make sure that we're a good neighbor to all of ours. I do want to mention that during our public meeting, we did get support from a few of our neighbors as well. stating that they were very excited about this too. So we definitely appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission to the applicant regarding docket item number 8?
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Allen. I'm just curious, I see you've got incentives. Is there any affordable housing that you're anticipating for this development?
No, we are not affordable housing. It will be market rate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. So if there's anybody out there that would like to speak on docket item number 8, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chairman, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Anything else, applicant, you'd like to add before we go into our deliberations and vote?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close all testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, we'll go ahead and take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve docket item number 8 with conditions as stated in the docket or the staff report.
Okay. So
Second.
okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 8 with conditions stated in the staff report. Anna, can you take a roll call on that motion, please?
Yes. Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crow,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, so it looks like the motion passes 5-0 for approval of docket item number 8. And we appreciate you coming in and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Good seeing you again, Lamine.
Let's go. Thanks.
Okay, with that, Joe, I think that concludes our docket items, doesn't it? Or, yeah,
It does.
all right.
I did have one question for you, Mr. Chair, and I didn't mention it to you yesterday. We had suspended, there's the code references that public hearing notices must be posted on the property, but that the commission may waive the requirement at the meeting. And when COVID first started, we did waive those requirements, and we've continued to do so. With the board moving to a hybrid format soon, or the commission, my question for you and the rest of the commission is whether you'd like us to start that back up. The reason it was discontinued is because I think it was the former commission that discussed this last temporarily, was because the customer is required to come into City Hall to pick up the signs. And of course, for a period of time, City Hall was closed. And then after that period of time, well, City Hall wasn't closed, but staff wasn't in the office. And then after that, for a period of time, it was deemed to be unsafe or undesirable to have them come in and do that. So the question I have for the commission is whether you all believe it's time to start asking customers to do that again. And if so, we can do that across the board.
So I'll start with that. And City Hall's back open full time, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then as far as getting the signs, does it have to be produced by the planning department, or is that something that they can print out, produce, and put out there themselves?
I'm not sure that the code says anything about who has to make it. Historically, it's always been the city providing it so that it's on a common template so that it looks the same for every case.
Right.
And has the same information on it for every case.
And then I know it's got to be posted for a certain number of days. Is that correct?
That's right. It has to be posted for 15 days or 13 or 15 days prior to the hearing.
And is it currently confirmed where you have somebody drive? I mean, do we have somebody drive by, or as it's posted, a picture's taken to show it's on the site and where it's located, and so you show that documentation?
Yeah. Yeah, we do require the applicant to provide an affidavit demonstrating that they've posted the sign. And in most cases, customers also provide a picture with that affidavit, but the picture itself is not required, just the affidavit.
Okay. I mean, since City Hall's open and the reason it was suspended was because, because City Hall was basically closed due to COVID, it seems like it's reasonable to restart that back up again. I would just maybe we think about or look at, and this is my opinion, how that sign is made and printed up, to post out there. Is that something you have to do, or can they print one up themselves and then have it posted?
Okay,
that's all.
We'll go ahead and start, and we'll use the signs that we have been, but the director has also asked us to look into new signage that's got more detail on it. So we'll take both of those into account, and we'll bring that information back to the board before we make any changes, or back to the commission for you guys to give feedback.
And I think we'd want to kind of start talking about this and put like a starting January 1 or December 1 or something like that. We're going to start requiring that again, something like that. So everybody's aware.
Okay, we can do that.
That's my opinion. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Oh, tell me again the purpose of doing this.
So there's 3 forms of public hearing notice that take place that are required by code. One is a published notice in a newspaper. Another is a mailed notice to all property owners within 300 feet plus the neighborhood associations. And then the third is a sign posted on the property in question for people that might be walking or driving by, to alert them to a public hearing. And you might have seen those around before. They're white signs with black text. They're about 2 feet wide by about 1.5 feet tall. And we provide those signs to customers for them to post on the property 15 days prior to the hearing. They provide us with the affidavit guaranteeing that they've done that after they've posted the sign. However, the commission can waive the requirement for those signs. And back when COVID started, we waived it. And so we're just talking about, since we've had some staff starting to give signs to customers because they're coming in asking for them, and I want to be consistent. I don't want some cases to be noticed and others not to be in that way. So I thought that I'd put that question back before you guys.
Okay,
and it sounds like we want to proceed with it.
Thank you for clarifying. It's another means of public notice.
That's right.
Public engagement. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No, other than the hybrid meeting, we do believe we'll be ready for that October 19th. So let us know. Lisa would greatly appreciate, commissioners, if you would let her know whether you plan to attend virtually or in person. If you attend in person, you will get breakfast. So just let her know that so she can order it for you.
Lisa, I'll be in person.
So a little while back, you asked us to submit some paperwork for ID badges or something. What's the status of those?
You should have received a call from security that your ID badge was ready to go. If you've not received that yet, let me know.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't.
Okay.
Joe.
So Bruce and Forrestine.
Me either. James.
Same with me, Tyler.
I got mine. And so then the next question would be, is parking, making sure we have that figured out as well.
Yeah, we'll work on, I believe you'll have to park in the Oak Street garage on the west side of Oak Street since the garage below City Hall's closed. So we'll work on finding a way to get that validated. We should be able to do that, get that validated for you guys, and we'll just have to send you some information to that effect.
Okay. Did having the badge, does that work yet to hold it up to the deal to get in and out of the garage, or do we know yet?
It doesn't work for most city staff.
Okay.
So you may have to pull a ticket to get in and then have that ticket validated.
Okay.
We'll get clarification on that, and as soon as we have it, we'll send it to you guys.
They used to just give us an additional green ticket to put in with the parking ticket.
Okay. Okay.
No. Okay.
All right.
Any training topics we've talked about in the past? I think now that you've got more staff available, maybe look at some of those training topics again.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing we haven't done for some time is a periodic review, which this commission, I'm not sure if you've even seen it once, which is up to 4 times a year we can amend. We do bring amendments, a batch of amendments to the zoning code forward. We'll be resuming that. We'll also likely have a couple of special text amendments, which are separate and apart from the periodic review that will be coming forward before the end of the year. So we do have that. As far as any additional training goes, what I can do is pull up the list of stuff that we had been working on about a year ago and send that out to you guys to see if there's consensus on what the next topic might be that you're interested in. As I recall, I think it was stormwater, and we were going to get some people from water services to come and discuss how the city manages stormwater and what the stormwater requirements are.
Yeah, I think that was one, and Blight was the second one.
Okay.
That people have been talking about.
Yeah, one of the questions that came up today when David McCoubry was talking about how there is the system in place for PIEA to hold people accountable. I would be curious to know, and it sounds as though this isn't what happened. It sounds as though community builders reached out because they can't maintain the property. I'd be interested in knowing when PIEA or some other entity is the one that forces that conversation of they're saying, hey, we've done our annual checks in 3 years in a row. You know, the irrigation or the lack of water maintenance has gotten worse and worse, and therefore we're forcing this because so I'd be curious to know, and I didn't want to get too much further into it today, but why that might not have happened or when that happens. And I know that's a little outside of our purview, but we had seen another situation where I kind of had asked, you know, is this something where you guys don't have a maintenance budget? You're kind of forced to let something go into disrepair so that way you can come forward and take advantage of the incentives that are available to you. And they had said, yes, you know, it's this constant, you fix something, you let it go into disrepair, and then you fix it again. And so it's just an area of interest. Again, it might not be completely relevant to everything we see, but a better holistic understanding of that environment would be really interesting.
Okay. Yeah,
good luck. I don't think anyone really knows.
I'm amazed you haven't got a maintenance plan, but anyway, I won't get into that. The other thing I would like to understand now is the incentives around affordable housing and when developers are required to put affordable housing into their plans. I'm unclear on when they're required to do that. And I think council, if I'm right, it had passed something with regards to if you get incentives, then you need to put affordable housing.
Yeah. So technically they are required, but there was a rush of applications. And so we'll probably be seeing about 3 years of people putting together projects that don't have affordable housing in it. I think they have until 2023 or 2024 to do that, but ones coming online should have some sort of affordable housing incorporated into their proposal. That's my understanding. So another thing that I'm interested in, because like we mentioned today, is just the Boulevard and Parkway standards, because I think that's a point of contention. And it would be nice to be a little bit more well-versed in kind of what the general requirements are and how those, maybe a little bit of backstory, because I know there's some challenges in different parts of the city that aren't along the more older established boulevard and parkways, and kind of what went into those standards as well.
Okay.
And then Joe, this is my big thing is, and I think it's probably more policy than anything else, but we're just seeing a lot of detention ponds for stormwater detention. And just around the country, I'm seeing more of cities requiring bioretention, constructed wetlands, and so forth in development. And I think there's just a lot of detention ponds are being built as a way to get through stormwater management. I think it's a policy for the city to have a look at, but there's just different ways to do it in my mind that are more better for livability of the community.
There, you might be aware, the Water Services Department has been working for some time on a green infrastructure manual that they actually have asked to present some of the information that they're working on related to that to you all. And we initially were going to have them sometime in August, but they actually weren't ready, and it was fine because our agendas were too long at that point. But I'll circle back with them to see if they'll be ready at some point before the end of the year, maybe, because I do think that manual, as I understand it, it's supposed to contain some information that can be codified as standards that would then allow permits to be issued for things like that. My understanding is right now we don't have adopted construction standards for those. So they have to be reviewed individually on a case-by-case basis, and that obviously is difficult. So that's my understanding of it. I think it would be good to have them come in so I can reach back out to them and see if they're going to be willing or able to before the end of the year.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think there's times where you can only use the pond, build stormwater detention pond, but there's a real opportunity. I'm just concerned we're just going to have detention ponds built and miss the opportunity of putting some really nice green infrastructure, stormwater green infrastructure into some of these developments. So sounds good. Thanks.
I think it'd be good after the first of the year, Joe, to have an update on the comp plan, kind of where it's at and how it's going.
Yes, I agree. I think that they're going to be starting to work on preparing the plan itself after the first of the year. So that will be a good time, I think, to have them come back, the staff that are managing it.
So could I ask if Sarah has anything from a legal standpoint that she feels she needs to train us on?
I don't know. Do you all have any topics that you'd like some training on, or even like a refresher on anything?
No, I was wondering if you had some topics that you thought we needed to be refreshed on. I don't know until something comes up and you tell us.
I don't know. I mean, I think you're doing fine, but if you have questions about any topics like the sunshine law or what's appropriate for closed session or anything like that, I'd be happy to present that. Or even, what's appropriate to consider when you're making decisions. I don't necessarily feel commissioners get off track, but I do think the conversation gets off track frequently when there's a lot of public testimony. And so I don't know if something like that would be helpful.
I think that would be helpful because I think two big things for me is I feel like sometimes we're put in a weird position of being the kind of decider whether the public engagement was enough or not. And kind of from a legal perspective, I mean, it might be simple as like, well, they completed their requirements, so that's the legal requirement from them to complete. But I feel like we're kind of in this gray area sometimes when it comes to that requirement. And then I think the second thing was, and this is hard because it blends with kind of adverse impact on the community, but essentially like what like an operator's reputation. And because I know we had that one set of group home cases where it was very clear that the operator's inability to run his locations was having an adverse effect on the neighborhood. But then there's ones in between that you don't really want to be a decider of someone's character because you don't really know them. But like, but how does that kind of play into the legal, or how does that kind of play into decision making based on the qualifications, I guess? So those two questions is one, kind of the evaluating public engagement and the law around public engagement, and then also kind of how does one's nature as an operator or owner impact kind of adverse effects or positive effects?
Okay, yeah, I could put together something on those topics. I mean, they're related, right? So I think we could do that in one session, if that makes sense.
Kobe and Joseph, y'all been here the most and the longest. Is there anything else that you feel we need to address?
I don't think we have time to go through those items.
Okay, that's a good one.
Well, let's show it in the training.
Well, I think it's everybody's learning the importance of the meetings and what's important and what's not, and understanding what our roles are. So, as you can tell, some of our meetings are getting quicker and quicker, which I think is great. And so it just takes a little while to understand what our real role is with this commission and what we do. So that's for me. I think we're on the right direction. But at the same time, I really enjoy the conversation and the questions and the thought process that everybody has and what you bring to the table on this this commission, because it is very thoughtful and just trying to make our community as best as it can be. Joe, if you had anything to add as well.
I probably could come up with something, but the fact that I can't think of anything tells me it's not much of an issue. So
yeah,
I think you guys have a good list going here. And as is always the case with an inquisitive group of people, there will be other questions that come up as we have these other trainings that will probably cause us to add a couple other things to the list. And that's appropriate and reasonable. And we'll have a plan for how to tackle that next year. And we'll see how the pace of the application volume goes. We did have obviously a big glut of cases in the spring and summer that we've finally started to work our way through, and our agendas look more average in length over the next few months so far. So we'll be able to add back in some of the stuff that staff initiates, like the text amendments to the agenda and some of these trainings, and we'll see how the application volume goes over the next few months. It's usually this is the quietest time of year usually for new application filings.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn.
Right.
Shortest meeting ever.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See y'all. Thanks.
Thanks.